What if I told you guys that you can actually buy properties 75% of the value, 70% of the value, 85% of the value in today's marketplace, and you don't have to wait for the marketplace to crash?
So pretty good. We don't have $1 million in equity because we did put about 400,000 in this property because there's two homes, but we're still sitting at 600K in a great spot,
Yeah.
and that property will be worth a lot more money later.
Hi, everybody. Jose Luis Morales here. Welcome back to another episode of the Morales Group Show. Today, we have Omar Alfaro. He is with the Expand Real Estate Group, and today he is going to be showing us how to find off-market motivated sellers, meaning how to buy properties at discounted prices, specifically how to go out and find them. Now, this is one of the topics I really like because I hear a lot of people say, well, I'm going to wait for the marketplace to crash or I'm going to wait for prices to drop. What if I told you guys that you can actually buy properties 75% of the value, 70% of the value, 85% of the value in today's marketplace, and you don't have to wait for the marketplace to crash? That's what Omar is going to be helping us with us today. So welcome to the show, Omar. How are you?
Good, man. I appreciate you having me. Thanks, Jose Luis.
I love it, man. So for our viewers that don't know who Omar Alfaro is, who is Omar Alfaro? And then how did you get involved in this wonderful world of real estate investing?
I've been doing. I appreciate it, man. Thanks again for having me on, Jose Luis. I've been a real estate agent for having a license, and I'm a broker, but for 21 years. So I
Hmm.
started in 2002. Became a buyer's agent, then became a listing agent. Then I started becoming a better listing agent, and then started buying the houses at the listing appointments because I had the seller right in front of me. So why not negotiate with the seller when you're sitting at the table? And bought my first house at 24, and then in 2009 and 10, I had 2009 actually. I had an REO account, and I got a bunch of properties that were sent to and sold a lot of properties like that. But our commission checks were $3,000, $1,500.
Hmm.
In my area, which is the high desert, we were selling properties for $30 a square foot,
That's
which is
crazy.
unheard of, right? And then I got somebody said, "Hey, why don't you buy some of these properties?" And I'm like, that's probably a good idea. So this is when nobody was lending. I was getting hard money loans at 12, 13% with 3 or 4 points because the loan amounts were only $50,000, right? So I ended up buying like, I don't know, a good 10 or 15 properties back then. And we still have them today and they've appreciated and all that good stuff. But as the market changed, I ended up keeping in touch with all the people that bought the properties from me, as a REO agent, right? And the other agents that represented those buyers never really followed up with them in a, campaign or a letter or none of that stuff. So I did, and then whenever the market changed, all those majority of those buyers ended up selling with me because I stayed in touch with them. This is why I was able to sell 100 houses a year, and for a good number of years in a row, and use that money to go buy more real estate. So
I
it
love
it, it worked out. I would say we got a little bit lucky, in 2009 and 10, where kind of we went all in and buying these houses at literally 30 grand, was it, Luis? 50,000. I had four plexes I bought for 100, 25,000 a door. I mean, it's like, really? We'll never see that again. And if we do, we probably just got bombed or something. So let's hope that we don't see that price point again.
Well, I think what you said is crazy. At $30 a foot, you can't even build a house at $30 a foot, you
The
know?
foundation, bro. That's just the slab.
Yeah. Which is
Seriously.
kind of crazy, which is
Yeah.
cool, man. So I hear this a lot, Omar. A lot of people are always like, well, I'm going to wait for the marketplace to crash. And for people who say that to me, I always tell them, look, there's no need to wait for the marketplace to crash. You can find good deals in today's marketplace. Like we just bought a property that's probably going to be worth like 1.5, and we bought it for like 750,000, you know? So it's kind of like there are good deals out there. You just have to get really good at finding them. So if some learn the art of finding good deals, what advice would you give them?
Right now in this market, the number one place to find good deals is the MLS. Straight up. And I'm going to say that because, a lot of us overlook it. And there's a lot of deals that we've created on the MLS because that is the biggest place of motivated sellers, period. Some of the agents won't learn to go buy the property or offer to them. But the ones that are sitting in the market a long time, you never know what their motivation is unless you go out and make an offer. And this is where, you can probably pick up a property for $50,000, $60,000 less than the listed price, but no one will ever know because you won't make that offer. That's like the low hanging fruit that's in front of everybody right now. Okay, you guys can go on Zillow, you can go on the MLS, you guys can find that part of it, right? But after that part, okay, fine. I already tried the MLS, Omar. It doesn't work. This, that, and the other. Everyone's competing against us, and market's low or market's high, but inventory is low, so demand's high. I would say the list that we do consistently now, absentee owners, people that do not live in the property, that have the properties rented. Okay, and how do you get those lists? Property radar, PropStream, your local title companies. They can give you a list of owners. You still got to scrub them. You still got to skip trace them to get the phone numbers. But then, yeah, you get the phone numbers, and then you start making the calls. Is it intensive? Yes. Is it a pain? 100%. But I guarantee you, what's not a pain is when you get that seller that's motivated and you buy the property, and then you just picked up a property like you just did for 750,000 and it's worth 1.5. I mean, that's a 50% reduction on value.
Yeah.
I don't know how you got that one, Jose Luis, but it's also like it's awesome to hear it because you put in the work.
Yeah. Well, it's actually another real estate agent brought it to me, that is, like, almost retired, and it was kinda like, "Hey, look, there's this property they wanna sell," and obviously, it's at 50%, but we still gotta put some money into it, but I still think that we'll be into it for 75% of the value once we put in all the work. What I did wanna, backtrack a little bit just so our viewers, so if I was going on the MLS, because a lot of people do overlook the MLS. They do overlook that there are deals on there. They think that there isn't any deals. What would I be looking for in the MLS? Is there certain search criteria that I'm looking for? Are there certain days on the market that I'm looking for? Any strategies there?
I would say 100% because the MLS, you can literally put, 100 days or more. You can put cash as is, quick sale. These are the keywords that you probably want to put into that MLS, and or Zillow. If you don't have an MLS, then go on Zillow, and it's there because I do it myself. One of my projects that I just closed on, and we just finished the remodel and everything else was on the MLS. I put on there that I want a specific area that says as is, quick sale, investor special, cash offer only. And guess what? I got a notification from Zillow. Okay, and it told me that this property was on the market within hours. I called up the agent. I said, "Hey, can you represent me? I don't want to. I don't want the commission. I want the property. Two houses on a lot in Eastside Costa Mesa in Orange County. I picked up for 1.4, fixed it all up, and this is based out of Zillow. Zillow brought, and this is like real time. I'm a broker. I have the MLS, but do we always like surf the MLS? We don't because we have our normal business and we're helping sellers and buyers. And because I did that, I was able to get a valuation on this on the two units after we're done of 2.6. So it's pretty good. We don't have $1 million in equity because we did put about 400,000 in this property because there's two homes, but we're still sitting at 600K in a great spot,
Yeah.
and that property will be worth a lot more money later. Giving you the example of like I set it up for myself to send me an alert, but you guys can do the same. So I would say those keywords are super important.
Awesome. Cool, man. What about building relationships with agents? Like let's say that because I did this on a deal, Omar, where I reached out to an agent. He had a fixer upper. That deal didn't end up working out. I let him know that I buy properties for cash. And sure enough, he ended up bringing me a deal like 6 months later at a ridiculous discount. Like, I feel like almost like sometimes consumers think like, oh man, like uh, this real estate agent is just trying to sell me something instead of having multiple relationships with multiple different agents. What would you say as it relates to that?
The relationships are huge, man, because just like you, that person brought you the deal, right? And then maybe it didn't work out the first time, but then the second time they're going to bring you another deal. A lot of
Mhm.
my properties that I own now, they were brought to me by the relationships I built with the clients, like my database, along with agents and along with other wholesalers. Like they all like right now, I just got a message, hey Omar, do you want to buy this property in Apple Valley for 215K? I was like, okay, cool. I already know the resale value is going to be 330 or 340 minimum, right? Because our median home price is 400K. So does it seem like a good deal? Sure, 215, I'll take it because I know there's going to be a 60,000 or $70,000 profit margin. But the point is the relationships that you build is super key. As long as you don't freaking you know mess up anybody and you're true to your word. If you're going to pay
Yeah.
someone, pay them. If not, then you won't get any more deals.
Your reputation, basically, in other words. So basically, if you say that you're going to do something, do it. The other thing that I do for value proposition to agents is I just basically tell them, look, I'm going to make this the easiest transaction you've ever worked with. And then I deliver on that. I make it super easy for them where it's like they want to work with you again as well, too. Meaning sometimes like clients can be a little bit demanding or a little bit like, hey, I'm trying to negotiate 50 cents on a property, and sometimes that makes the agent maybe not wanna work with you again, you know?
For sure, because like you're kind of giving them like, and I'm sure you've been on this end. I get offers at 60%, and I have the listing. And it's like, dude, what are you doing? You know, and we're in that boat, right? We're the ones that are making those offers too,
Yeah.
Jose. So it's funny, but it's it's one of those things where if you do good by others, you're gonna get.
I love it. Okay, cool, man. So one of the lists that you talked about was absentee owners. Obviously, they can pull that. Are there any other lists that you think that people should be focusing on in order to find, like, good off-market opportunities?
Well, the ones in our areas, right? We're California. We've appreciated a lot. The last 3 years have been crazy, or 2.5 years. Um, I would say the motivated bleeding neck type of sellers are the ones that are probably behind on payments. An inheritance, but I would say focus on the say focus on the behind on payments, foreclosures, trustee sales, because there's a lot that we don't see. There's a lot of forbearances that people are, behind on their payments, but nobody sees it. There's no notice of default. So it's to me, I think that that's going to be a biggest, one of the easiest, I'd say, conversations because they're already motivated. So you and me are in real estate, Jose Luis, and when we have a seller that wants to sell, how simple and easy is it because they're already wanting to sell their property, right? If on the retail
Yeah.
side, they want to sell. They already have a place to go and they just want it done. Okay, cool. They're not as motivated as a person that hasn't paid their mortgage, but I'd rather be dealing with those type of people anyways because it makes your job that much easier.
So I know that we were talking about how people that are behind on their payments can be extremely motivated. Is there any
Yeah.
way to get like a forbearance list ahead of time? Like meaning like a forbearance list instead of waiting for the NOD to be filed? Or is it just kind of you come across these people by just calling other sources?
That's a good question because we've asked that same question. I don't think you can, because it's more of a private like issue,
Hmm.
individually between the beneficiary and you as the borrower. So I would say no, because I've tried looking too to see if I can get who's on the forbearance list. Let me talk to them directly. So just by default, obviously, by making the calls, you run across those people that, yeah, I got a forbearance for $50,000, or I have a second of 60K with 0% interest. As long as I don't pay it off the next 10 years, that right there is perfect because 0% interest for 60,000 bucks. I'll take that all day.
100.
Helping out and everything else because you definitely don't want to sell that property. You definitely want to buy it from them, and sub to it or something for sure.
Yeah. What I was going to ask you is what I've come across with like some of the people that are in default is that a lot of them don't want to sell their property and a lot of them want to keep their property. And there's like a huge emotional attachment to it. Like, um, is there any specific strategies that you do to try to maybe help them with that? Like the approach that I've been taking with people that are in default, it's like, look, I'm going to try everything I can to try to help you to keep it. I'll recommend them to like a loan modification company. I'll recommend them to an attorney to try to stall the date. And then if I can't do that, then I'm hoping that I put enough good faith into it that they would sell me their property at that point if we've explored those options and they can't do it. How are you dealing with that? Or are you just focusing on people that have decided that they just want to sell the property versus the ones that maybe don't want to sell and want to keep it?
Well, if they're in this situation, they're one of two things. They're naive on thinking that they're going to be able to stay in a house they haven't paid. Um, but if they have that emotional connection and attachment to the property, then at that point it's like, okay, well, if it makes sense, I have a couple properties that I left the sellers in the property. I own the house now, and I've taken them over with their loan, but all they needed was a little bit of extra time, and giving it to them with no payments. They can stay in the house for 8 months, but obviously I'm buying it at X, right?
Mhm.
And they're okay with that. So I think that it's a case by case basis because if they don't got a place to go, then you got to kind of keep them in the house. But if you can find them something else, well, then it's you're killing two birds with one stone. Help them move somewhere else for housing, right? Because at the end of the day, they might be emotionally attached, Jose Luis, but the ultimate, they want a roof over their head. That's at the end of the day, that's what they want. They want a roof over their head. They want to feel like they still have somewhere to sleep that's not in a hotel or a motel. And I think you can make that adjustment by providing some type of solution for them to stay in the house or put them in one of your other rentals.
We just made an offer to somebody like that, and one of their questions was, um, "Is there any way I can stay in the property after the close of escrow?" Or her question
Yeah.
was, "If I take this offer, will I have to be moved out by Saturday?" And my response, "No, we can work it in there where we can keep you inside the property for a longer period." But I've got to imagine that's a huge value proposition to these types of people because they're able to stay in the property for longer. Okay, so we've talked about absentee owners, we've talked about NODs. What about probates? Is it strictly calling these people? Is there any mailing? Any other list that you feel would be helpful in terms of finding motivated sellers?
That probate list is cool. It's expensive. If you want to get um, if you want to get the list right away, we send postcards every month. And you got to remember, like they're getting bombarded with postcards and with letters. So it's the game of like, all right, who's going to last the longest by doing this type of activity? The postcard, and you got to remember, it's the trust, it's the executor of the estate that's getting all of the postcards. It's not the property address for the most part. If it is, then you're wasting your money sending it to the address that's in question.
Yeah.
Um, because obviously the mailing address of the trust or of whoever's taking it over. So that's it's a long play. I think I want to say 6 months, 7 months already, and I think we've gotten maybe 4 or 5 good conversations. Um, but again, and that's San Bernardino County. So one of our biggest counties, and we still haven't got a deal on probate yet.
Okay.
Like a real legitimate one. A lot of follow up, but not a solid signature.
Yeah. Let me ask you this, like if somebody's trying to build up their pipeline of motivated sellers, like is it better just to focus on one specific niche or is it better to have multiple lines in the water? And what would some of those other lines be?
You know, okay, so with with that question, it's like you want to get really good at one thing, right?
Hmm.
Like you got good at being a real estate agent, representing buyers and sellers and everything else, right? Using that active income to buy more doors for passive income. This is something different. It's whoever can market the best will win. Period. End of story. It's whoever markets the best. So if you have multiple streams of, advertising, meaning your letters, your postcards, your cold callers, your texting, your Facebook ads, your social media, your YouTube, your this, your that. More people are going to get like caught in your web. And then when more people get caught in your web, what happens? You get more phone calls, you get more opportunities, you get more potential conversations that lead into appointments, to the signatures, to the result, to the referral, to your investment. So I would say, if you're going to pick cold calling, texting, mailers, and good old-fashioned hard work from you as the investor and or realtor that wants to become the investor, because it's not going to get handed to you, my
Yeah.
opinion.
What about wholesalers, Omar? Do you have any relationships with wholesalers? And would you
Mhm.
recommend that as a potential strategy if somebody wanted to find motivated sellers? And maybe for those viewers that don't know what a wholesaler is, what is a wholesaler as well?
Yeah, the wholesalers getting pretty much. This is what everybody wants to do. They want to get into the appointment with the seller to buy a property under value. Okay, if I'm Mr. Wholesaler, I'm buying a property for $200,000. It's worth 300. Now, Jose Luis is going to want to buy the property from me, and I don't have the cash to close it for 200K, but it's worth 300. So I know I have equity position, right? So then I'm going to sell the contract, a piece of paper, to Jose Luis for 20 grand. I made $20,000. You now bought a property for 220. You can fix it, sell it for 300, make yourself 40 or 50 grand, providing the fix up isn't there or isn't that high. So me becoming the wholesaler, I just made 20,000. So that is what wholesaling is. You take a seller that's motivated, you get under contract, you or your name, whatever company you have, and then you assign the contract over to an end buyer, which is Jose Luis in this example, and he's going to pay you X for it. He'll pay you 15K or 20K depending on how much spread there is or how much work is needed on that property. But then because of that, like, I guess what I'm going to do? Jose Luis just bought the property from me. The next time I get a deal, who am I going to go to first? Hey, you already bought a deal from me. Here's another one. You want this one? Cool. I made another 20K. Thank you. So I named $40,000 on a relationship with Jose Luis. So the relationships that you build with wholesalers, super, super crucial, because they're out there getting contracts signed when you don't need to. I'm telling you, I got one just got sent over to me right now as a matter of fact, he just said this, and I'll read it. You want it at 2:15, need to close by 5:14. I'm like, okay, that's in 10 days.
Yeah.
Can I close it in 10 days? Yes. Do I want to? Maybe not, because I want to be able to leverage, right? So he asked me, question mark. He has it locked up for 210. So he's making 5 grand. That's a relationship right there. I know the property's worth 340. So if it's worth 340, 350, it's not a bad deal at 215. So that's a relationship. Just happened right now. And that's what's super key about having that relationship with the wholesaler or wholesalers.
So would
But
it be safe to say, Omar, that like if somebody wants to get into the game, somebody wants to flip properties, they're better off searching on the MLS to start off, building relationships with real estate agents and building relationships with wholesalers because they're already basically doing the hunting for you? Would you say that's a lot easier than going direct to seller and targeting notice of defaults, targeting absentee owners, targeting people that are over 55? Would you say that's a much simpler strategy?
100%, it's like more laser focused because you don't know what you don't know. You're brand new in the game. How do you talk to a seller? Do you know the 4 personality types of who you're going to be meeting? I mean, there's a lot of things that you don't know as a new investor and or realtor. So, and if you have some cash and you have some connections with people that work on properties, then yeah, like literally this lead cost me 5 grand if I decide to buy it. $5,000 to make 50 or 60,000. Yes, might be 3 or 4 months from now. But last time I checked, if I gave you 5K, Jose Luis, and or you gave me 5K and I said, hey, I'm going to pay you back $60,000, you'll do it every day of the week, twice on Sundays. because that's what we do, right? So yes, it's a lot simpler to go on the MLS, get a relationship with an agent and or a wholesaler. You guys should write this down. You guys always see those bandit signs out there that say we buy houses. Call them. Call them and say, hey, I'm a buyer, or hey, what kind of properties are you looking for? You know, in this case, if you're brand new, you want to buy a house. Hey, I want to buy a house in this specific area. When you get one, let me know. I'll buy it from you. There you go.
Yeah. And I
I
love
still
it.
do that.
I know. What I was going to ask you is on that same subject about advertising, do you do bandit signs? And I thought I saw on social that I think you have like a truck that says "We buy houses" or something like that. And then what other types of advertising things would you do to kind of get the word out that you're in the market to be able to buy properties?
It's free. But if everyone's scared to go look at the little camera and like talk a little bit about like, hey guys, I will buy your house. Let me know if you know anybody that's looking out there to sell their property or going through a situation. I'll buy it. That's number one because it's free. Number two, obviously, I still have boxes, Jose Luis, of We Buy Houses bandit signs, man, in my garage. I literally probably got like 500 of them. I just got to find someone to go put them up on freaking poles. And I just haven't. We used to do that a lot, but not anymore.
It's funny. I have a dump truck, Omar, that we branded "We Buy Houses" on there, and literally we
Beautiful.
park it on a busy street, and it's just like a giant billboard, and we get calls from it, like saying, "Hey, look, like I'm looking to sell my property." And worst case, if it doesn't lead to a purchase, it leads to a listing as well too, which is kind of like just a different way of going about it. The other thing I was going to ask you, what about like PPC and Paper Lead? What are those, and how do they work?
Um, it's expensive. So PPC in Southern California, in our market, yeah, we're going to be spending $10,000 minimum a month. Minimum. If you want to even like get 4 to 5 leads a month, six, maybe you get a little bit more because it's probably a couple, $300, $400, $500 a
A
lead that
lead.
comes in, depending on your area. So just know that it's super expensive. But if I told you, hey, $120,000 a year you're going to spend on advertising just for PPC, one avenue, you get 5 or 6 transactions at 40 grand a piece. Okay, it makes sense ish. You can double your money, but you're not guaranteed that. So you could be spending 120K and not receive one deal. So be prepared for that. PPL, paper lead. That means if there's some services out there, just type in, paper lead on Google and it gives you a bunch, I'm sure. And you'll pay $400 or $500 for each lead. But, what's crazy about PPL is that depending, you can buy it for like an hour, or you can buy it for 6 hours or a day, or you want exclusive rights to this 123 Main Street, John Smith, right? But then if you want it, you're going to pay more money for it. If you just want it for an hour because you have a full team in place and they're going to call immediately, then you might save yourself a little bit of money on that lead. But guess what? After 1 hour, it gets sold to somebody else, and then it gets sold to somebody else. Now you have like 7 people competing against that one lead. So it's
Yeah, it's funny
interesting.
because we started doing Paper Lead. An example of it is need to sell your home fast .com. And the first lead that came in, they're just like, yeah, we want to sell. We only want 775, and the property was worth a lot more than that. And they're like, that's all we want. As long as we get to 775, we're good. We don't need to market it on the MLS. And I was like, oh my God, like this is crazy, because you can pay three,
Did
four,
you buy it?
$500. We're in negotiation, so it's a divorce, but we did make an offer on it. But
Nice.
it's an example of it that there are good deals. You just got to get really good at finding them. So here's my question to you. Like, why do people sell at a discount? Like, why do people not want to put their properties on the MLS or go the traditional MLS route? Like, are there people like that? And why do they do that?
Everyone asks me the same question, man. Like, well, what? Why? It's like, you know what? We don't know what people are going through. Okay. the MLS and on the market as a listing agent, there's a process there. There is a process. So if the house is in great condition, yes, it makes more sense. But even if it's in great condition, maybe the sellers don't want a bunch of activity coming in and out of their property. They don't want to have to deal with like showing it and open houses and everything else. But what they don't like, they're leaving money on the table. You know that, I know that. Okay. But the convenience factor of selling it off market or to a cash buyer, it's no contingencies. It's straight up. It's like, hey, like this person said, they want 775. That's it. Give them 775. That's it. That's what they want. Great. It's worth $1 million. Okay, cool. $225,000 worth of equity. Beautiful. This happens because people go through processes, divorces, like you said. They're sick. They just got an inheritance and they don't want to deal with it. They live in the East Coast. They don't want anything to do with it out here in the West Coast. I mean, there's so many factors that I sometimes wonder. I've been in this position as a broker. Like, are you sure you don't want to list it? Are you sure you don't want to list it? And they said, no, I mean, we don't. You got a deal right now and you made an offer, so we'll take it. Okay. And sometimes it's like, wow, did this just happen? Cool. You bought a property under value and you can make some money on it. Cool. Awesome. But it just depends on their situation. What's up, Luis? I mean, you've been in that situation, so.
I have, and it's crazy to me sometimes because I'll be like, look, I can get you X amount of money
I
if you
know.
list it on the multiple listing service. And I remember one specifically that we flipped on Cambria, and he was like, look, I don't want that. I understand that's good. I think the market's going to change. I think this and that. And he told me literally, look, I've got 3 cash offers. I'm going to go with one of these cash offers unless you make me an offer on the
That's better.
property, and I'm not going to list it on the MLS. And when he showed me the cash offers, I was like, all right, I'm not going to try to list it anymore. I'm just going to make him an offer and let him know why we're going to be the simplest people to work with. But I used to question the same thing. Like, why would people sell it for 100, 200, $300,000 below the market value? But I think you're right. They're just going through different things in their life. Any other strategies or any other tactics that you think would be helpful for viewers if they're looking to find motivated sellers, Omar?
Um, Thinking about that, we just covered, bandit signs and covered bandit signs, covered, inbound leads, PPL, PPC. It's more expensive. Relationships with people like us. Um, I would, honestly, I think other than the MLS as the lowest hanging fruit that you could literally go and make some offers. And I will say this: if you want a property that's on the MLS and someone's listing it, go straight to the listing agent and say that you want to buy the property. You want to buy the property. Do not go use another real estate agent to represent you to make an offer on this property when it's already undervalued or whatever. I mean, granted, I might get some backlash on this, but I don't even make my own offers. I want them to make the commission, so now they work for me and I can get the asset because that's what we want. We want the asset to be able to out of the portfolio or flip the property to make 40, 50K. That's a simple, I guess, process that you guys can all like model.
I agree. And it makes it simple. And obviously, like the other agent is incentivized by dual commission. So they're making more money on one deal. You got to realize that not all, like some of the agents in the industry only sell 3 to 4 properties. So if they represent 2 people on one, that's already 25, 30% of their income right there. So they're more than happy to do that 100%. Cool. If people wanted to get a hold of you, man, how can people do that? And then which market are you in as well, too? That way, in case somebody ever had some deals out that maybe they want to buy off you.
Guys, I'm in SoCal. I'm in the small little area called the High Desert, where it's Apple Valley, Victorville, Hesperia, Lucerne, Barstow, Wrightwood, Big Bear. Big Bear, it's its own market and stuff, but we service there, and SoCal, Rancho, and Fontana, and San Bernardino, Devore. Um, so you guys follow me on IG, Invest with Omar. Go to my website, omaralfaro.com. Bunch of cool stuff there, and try to provide as much value as possible for people. And because there's so much information out there, guys, right now. There's a ton. It's a big ass buffet line, so just pick and choose what you want. You guys all been to buffets. You don't sit there and grab every single freaking item on that runway for at the buffet line. So just pick and choose what you want, and hopefully it works out for you.
I love it, man. Cool, man. Well, I want to say thank you, Omar, obviously, for taking the time to be on the podcast. I think it's important for people to realize that you don't have to wait for a marketplace to crash. You can actually find good opportunities in today's marketplace. I think you just have to position yourself correctly so that when there are good opportunities that sell, you're the first person that people think about when it comes time for that. For our viewers out there, thank you so much for watching. If you've enjoyed this interview, make sure to hit that subscribe button. If you feel that this interview would be helpful to anybody, make sure to hit that share button. Omar, thank you again, and I appreciate your time.